Hang on 1 second. All right, you should be all set.
Okay. Good afternoon, folks. I'm calling this working group to order at 12:02. And I know just for comments, my co-chair, Attorney Representative Quinn, will hopefully be joining. He had a little bit of delay between some matters and the weather, so if he will join when he is able, and if not, I know he'll be watching the video as soon as he's able as well. Some of our other members have communicated that they had some difficulties joining today as well with the weather or Connecticut snow. Some folks did have tower internet issues or delays in their commutes due to the snow. So we will make sure that folks who can't be here today, please watch it and please provide your comments to Nate, who is our aide, who sends everyone the link, as well as myself and Representative Quinn. We don't want weather to stop people's participation, and we know folks might be joining later. Our first order of business is approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from 2 weeks ago?
So moved.
Thank you, Senator Kushner. Is there a second? So Brooke raised her hand. Brooke Foley did raise her hand to second. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing no discussion, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of approval of the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so our agenda item for today is discussion on proposals. I did not see any new proposals presented. Did anyone present any new proposals? Then I'll open the floor if there's any discussion on old proposals or anyone wants to discuss anything, any proposals or any thoughts on changing statutes. Please raise your hand. Senator Kushner.
Just a quick comment to thank those that are working on some of these revisions. I really appreciated hearing some of the rationale. And I do want to say that so much has changed since 1993, and we're seeing that in other aspects of workers' comp and the changes that were made then. And so to me, this is really good timing to, really modernize and update where we are. So I appreciate your efforts.
Anyone with further discussion? Yes, Bud.
It seemed I was not at the last meeting. I was sick, but in reviewing the minutes, it seemed like there was somewhat of a consensus of trying to utilize vocational rehabilitation more fully in some capacity. And I wanted to ask Marie whether she knew what the current staffing was for the vocational rehabilitation office.
With short answer is no. Longer answer is that, to my knowledge, there's only a couple of people who work with workers' compensation claimants. So there's a bigger department, obviously, Bud, and they work with other agencies, with people. I can tell you that Karen Sargent comes into 21 Oak Street a couple times a week. She brought somebody in with her just on Thursday or Friday, who was new to that division, who's going to be working in the Bridgeport, Stamford, New Haven districts. But I think there's just a couple of people who work with workers' compensation claimants.
Yeah, I asked the question because it was my understanding that at one point you were down to 3. I'm talking about people that actually work with injured workers at the local workers' comp district offices.
Right.
You were down to 3 and someone recently retired. Was my information?
Well, I think the person who recently retired was the position that Karen took over. Karen Sargent, who came to speak to us at one of the early meetings. She's a supervisor. I know that there's one administrative staff that comes into Hartford, but she's not to Oak Street, but she's not working with the claimants directly. And then, like I said, there's one person that came in for training at the end of last week. But I think you're right, Bud. I think there's just a couple of people.
Okay, thank you.
Marie, is that some information that you can get on the current staffing levels, or is that outside of your purview?
I could certainly ask Karen Sargent.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
as you guys know, although the agency funds DWR, they actually are a separate entity now. So they don't work for the Workers' Compensation Commission anymore. They work with another state agency. But I can ask Karen, that's not a problem. In fact, I'll send her an email right now as we're meeting.
Anyone else with additional comments, thoughts, suggestions? So this will be your last opportunity to give thoughts, suggestions, comments in this working group before our final meeting, before legislative session. We will have one additional meeting before legislative session. So I'll ask again, does anyone have thoughts or comments? Proposals? Discussion?
If I could just, I'm sorry to go in. I just sent Karen Sargent an email with that question. I got an out of office reply, so I'm not going to have an answer for you today.
Thank you for that update. Nathan Schaffner, I saw your hand was up.
Yeah, as you know, when we began this session back in October, November, Bud and I made a very broad outline of things that we thought would be topics of discussion. And I don't want everyone to, the impression that I've gotten over the last few months is that it's either all or nothing. And they were really broad strokes of different areas that have been of concern for many years. And what concerns me is, now we've had, I don't know how many meetings, but there's been no, we've had a number of discussions, but there's been no, how should I say, proposals or comments or counter responses of saying, you know what, I think you're going too far there. We understand the right direction, but maybe if we could squeeze it a little bit more or extend it this way or provide more explanation. And I really thought that we would be engaging in discussions, and all that was meant to be was a blueprint. And these are important things that we thought that should be discussed at. And I really wish the group found a way to at least use that as I said, as a blueprint to try to come to some agreement, because I still believe there are areas where we can come to agreement on. And I just wish that, now I think this is going to be one more session, Chris? One more meeting?
There'll be one more meeting before legislative session, yes.
Yeah, so, still open to having any of those discussions, whether it be, now's the time to do it. So.
So does anyone have any thoughts, conversations, discussions, items they'd like to discuss? Yes, Representative Ackert.
Thank you, Representative Conley. I take it there's an intent for you and Representative Quinn to put something out during the session. Is that my understanding?
That is the plan of the working group, yes. That the working group will have a recommendation, hopefully, for before legislative session. The working group was to report back to Judiciary Committee by February 1st.
So it's going to, yeah, to judiciary. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. So I would encourage something to be brought forward. And if we're going to do anything, whether it's going one way or the other. Okay. So thank you, Representative.
Thank you. Any discussion matters? Don't want to stifle any discussion. Yes, Brooke, fully.
Hi, thanks so much. I just wanted to reiterate again that in terms of the position of the insurance industry, we still feel like there hasn't really been any concrete data or discussion about whether or not any changes are necessary. So the only information that this group has had on what the current status is has come from a chart that I pulled together, and we really didn't discuss any of that at all. So our position is that we still need to make the case that the numbers are not adequate, because the way we see it, we have not even done that first step yet.
Yes, but Draper.
I think as Nathan pointed out a few sessions ago, as claimants attorneys, we're in the trenches, and so all our evidence is anecdotal. The statistical evidence is in the possession of the insurance industry. We don't have necessarily access to that. So, to give more weight to these numbers than to the lives of the people that we deal with on a daily basis, is I think somewhat misplaced. And I hate to just dismiss the anecdotal evidence that we have, because the anecdotal evidence we have are the lives of injured workers. And again, we're dealing with people who have been injured to a degree at work that they can't return to their job. That's the situation we're dealing with. And the employer has told them they cannot return to their job. So I just wanted to restate what Nathan had stated previously in response to the lack of statistical evidence.
Thank you. Senator Kushner?
I appreciate those remarks, Bud, because I feel like in public hearings we've had in the Labor Committee on permanent partial disabilities, with other legislation under consideration, those testimonies from workers that have been injured has been incredibly compelling. And I do think that we are about making sure that we're protecting Connecticut workers on the job when they're injured, and it's our responsibility to do so. So I don't think it's just anecdotal. I think there's been a lot of evidence put forward that workers who are in these circumstances are struggling to survive. And we, I think, have an obligation to make sure that we are assisting and improving their quality of life under the circumstances where they were injured at work. So I appreciate your remarks, Bud, and certainly we take them very seriously.
Any additional? Floor is open. Okay. So I will now share our next step as a group on how we get from where we are today to where, to our next meeting. So our next meeting will be the 30th. That's our last meeting before legislative session. So we do have one proposal. We may, if any member of the group present or listening has any additional proposals, and a proposal could be a different change, it could be no change, it could be a variety of things. Please, if you have not made a proposal, please, and you would like to, please get that to the chairs and Nate. Nate does send you the emails with the links by Friday at 4 p.m. so that we can look at those. The chairs will review all proposals made. And again, a proposal is make a change to this section or make a change to multiple sections or make no changes to any section. Please do send your proposals in. It is expected the chairs will review the proposals, discuss amongst themselves and make a proposal to this working group. We expect votes on our next meeting. Our next meeting is January 30th at noon. We can go from 12 to 2 is our general time frame. If we have avid conversation, we certainly wouldn't cut it off right at 2 p.m. But as today, it's been 17 minutes so far. We may be done well before our cutoff time or our expected cutoff time. So is that fair? Is the deadline of Friday at 4 p.m. fair to everyone on the call? So please send your proposals so we can take a look. We can put them together if there's multiples, and we can bring a proposal to the working group to come out. Now, other working groups have voted on multiple proposals. Some have voted on just one proposal, and the chairs have combined proposals into a path. So the chairs have the ability to do both things, have multiple proposals voted out, or have one proposal voted for recommendation to the committee. Now, as I said for the prior working group today, nothing that this working group does will become law automatically. The goal of this working group was to provide a recommendation to the committee. This working group is reporting back to Judiciary Committee. Any recommendation would have to be raised by the committee and have a full public hearing. So folks do not have to be concerned or excited that one proposal will instantly become law. That is not the intent or the legislative abilities of this working group. So if that makes folks feel more comfortable to present proposals that will be discussed as a recommendation. And the chairs would like to listen to all members. So if you have a proposal, please do provide it by Friday, 4 p.m. And then we will meet again January 30th, noon, to have more discussion. No proposals will be considered after Friday at 4 p.m. Any questions on our next steps? Great. With no questions or no other comments, any comments, last comments? Excellent. I will adjourn this meeting at 12:19 then.